people who love one another, are adults, and wish to be in a faithful relationship. How dare that church warn people that marriage can only be between a man and a woman and not between two loving adults? How dare they spend thousands of dollars when they're a church to tell people how to vote, to persuade them that they should ask for a constitutional amendment because the judges who decided for the rights of homosexuals must have been not with it. Fact is, minority rights have never been the will of the majority. I predict that someday the people in the Roman Catholic Church will have another tragic scandal to bear. It will be the exposure of another percentage of their clergy who have been and still are in long-term relationships with women. And what pain these closeted relationships have caused the women and their families. The Episcopal Church in America has been far more of a loving Christian example of inclusivity. They have ordained gay and lesbian people and have even consecrated a gay man as a bishop. In the World Anglican Communion, however, that there has been a sad need for them to try and accommodate a divergence of opinion. And they say it's for the sake of unity. But one of their own bishops, retired Bishop John Shelby Spong, said, "The church's leadership is acting as if negotiation is possible in this conflict. Yet the obvious fact is that homosexuality, like slavery, is a moral issue and thus not amenable to compromise." One of the other things that Maher said that was disturbing to me was that, well, he made the comment that Jesus probably never existed. Well, this was a blatant display of his ignorance. You see, within a decade of the crucifixion of Jesus, there appeared in the Roman annals that the followers of someone called Christus, which was a misspelling of Christos, were causing a lot of problems in the Jewish community. 10 years later, these followers had increased to a great number, and Nero, the emperor, decided to persecute them. Now, if you want some authenticity in something that existed, you have to have outside sources. So the Gospels are really not an outside source. But there were and are two outside sources besides what I just said. And one comes from the historian Josephus, who mentioned in the Antiquities of the Jews that there was this great man called Jesus Christ, or whatever he called him, I forgot, and that he was a person who was purported to do great deeds, and he had a tremendous following. There was also another source from the Roman historian Tacitus, who was not quite as kind in what he had to say about Christ, but he mentioned that it was because of this man who was executed by Pontius Pilate that there were so many persecution and killings of his followers. Now, we have to remember that both the Old Testament and the New Testament, the Christian Testament and the Hebrew Testament, are not a record of a series of facts that are arranged in the order in which they happened. They are stories of faith, and they were not written by people who witnessed the events. Who was there to write down what happened to Adam and Eve? They were fallible people trying to convey their faith in a human being, in the Christian Testament, their faith in a man called Jesus, who changed the shape of their lives. This Jesus' appeal was so deep and immense that in order to capture what mere words could not, these writers lapsed into literary devices such as symbols and myths to tell about how great a person he was. And this was done in antiquity. If you want to tell about the coming of a great, or talk about a Caesar, one of the Caesars, you said that they were born of a virgin and that they were persecuted and that they rose from the dead. So this is what's behind the telling of a virginal birth, or the visit of a magi, or the star in the east, or the raising of the dead. But what Jesus did do was make known to those who listened to him the meaning of life and all of life, the meaning of love and the source of all love. And these people believed that in Jesus, God was made manifest. And that identification, my friends, is what, with the divine, is what's possible for all of us. But what's sad to say is that down through the ages, informing believers about the power of the symbols and the myths that point to another reality, the church itself lapsed into a literal interpretation of the Gospels. Now, clergy today are educated in the theology and in biblical scholarship, and they're well aware of these things that I'm telling you about, except those are fundamentalist and evangelical. But they are reluctant to share this knowledge with the people in the pews. And they will tell you that. They'll tell you because they think that the people that their faith will be damaged, or that they're really not smart enough to get it. Are you smart enough to get what I'm telling you? Does it make a difference to you that Jesus, that his mother was not a perpetual virgin, and that he had brothers and sisters? It didn't make a difference to his followers that he was labeled a blasphemer by the religious leaders and crucified a criminal. Now, whether you agree with me or not, I think that you would be very able to understand what the clergy have been trained to know. We live in a society where people have little awareness of how their thoughts or their feelings or their actions affect others. They lack an awareness of how all things are interconnected. One of the other things that Maher in this documentary did was poo-poo miracles. Now, I haven't had any tremendous miracles happen in my life. I've had some really significant ones, not different than many people have had. But there are some children who are born and who have a high level of kindness and sensitivity to the world, and who are spiritually gifted. I understand that they are called indigo children. And just recently, I came across this book about a youngster called Akien. And she definitely is a child who has miraculous gifts.